Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we are going to be doing a starter guide for Gold Mythic Eva and Ghost. She is one of the kind of premier characters in the arena wheel. If you haven't checked out my video on the arena wheel, how to get extra tokens, farm the tokens up to get some of the pools of characters that you do like, potentially Eva and Ghost, and potentially some of the other nice characters. Now I have done a video, you can check it out in the top right hand corner. I have also reviewed, like did a preview of Eva and Ghost. That isn't what this video is about, it's just about what kind of combat mods you want to do, weapon upgrade options. If you want to check out the preview of Eva and Ghost and how she actually works, you can check out that video as well in the top right hand corner now. So let's get into this video. We'll just go like touch on her kit. I would say when it comes to her adrenaline rush, it is nice, but it isn't the most important part of her kit. Sometimes you can win fights without even having Eva and Ghost adrenaline rush. She is very powerful when it comes to her snitch move, and she was with a wave of characters on attack teams that came out where the attack teams had good SIGs rather than good rushes, because a lot of the time it was attack teams have good adrenaline rushes, defense team have good signature moves. Whereas Eva and Ghost kind of got ahead of that, and her signature move is really powerful. It hits 4 attacks total. As you can see in the second line, it says make 2 attacks against a line of enemies for 300% damage each. If you take out those targets, it will then go on to attack other targets. So she can take down 4 characters on turn 1, and it doesn't seem like a lot, which is 300%, but she gets some of the best amplifiers in her passives out of any character that's ever kind of existed in the Mythic era. And that's because passives increase her damage output. Her role passive is nice though, because she has the normalize on the actual specialist skill. You want her to be able to hit this more often. Now the first passive is called Premeditate. At the start of each wave, 100% chance this fighter gets focus and camouflage for the rest of combat. Now this means she can attack behind human shields, and there are more human shields coming out in the game. So it's obviously quite important to be able to potentially take out someone like a bodyguard who's hidden behind a human shield first, because then you hit the normalize, the bodyguard would not proc, so on and so forth. The next one's called the Deadly Companion. When attacking, make a second attack against the same target with 150% attack. This means each of those 4 attacks is guaranteed with a 100% chance to do a double attack. It's like having a double attack weapon inbuilt into her kit with a 100% proc rate. She hits extremely hard. So suddenly that 300% damage hit that she's doing does a 300% damage hit plus 150 damage hit as well. Very powerful for sure, and just kind of an enhancement to her damage output. And the last one is honestly the big one, Exploited Weakness. When attacking, increases damage by 10% for every negative status effect on the enemy team. It doesn't even have to be on the character that she is hitting, as long as there are negative status effects on the enemy team, and it isn't maxed. It doesn't say maximum of 50%. If you have 20 negative status effects, she's getting a 200% attack boost. Now there aren't too many characters that can put down that sort of level of control or negative status effects turn 1, but there is one that is actually pretty good, and that is They Who Wander. Because of how his kit works, I think he can do hemorrhage with his own skill, you know, his own passives. Then he has his disarm, and then if you give him like a burn mod, he could also do burn. So he could do his signature with turn 1 and put down 6 effects straight away, and then Eva and Ghost is going to be getting a 60% attack boost. Any other negative status effects that come in from the rest of your team will stack with this. This is where the massive amount of damage output can come in for Eva and Ghost. Now all of the passives definitely are worth maxing out, so make sure you do that. If you were limited on military supplies, I would say the one for focus is maybe the one that you don't have to max out the most, but it is very handy to be able to attack behind those human shields. Now on to the combat mods, and this is where you can dictate basically how Eva and Ghost is going to work based on what teams you're mainly going to face. Now when it comes to Eva and Ghost, she has kind of transitioned in terms of what teams she can go up against over the last 6 months because of defense characters that have come out on defense teams. She is a strong character, so she's always going to get extra attack versus fast characters, so you can take that into account. There are some pretty decent fast defense teams now. You've got the new Magna lead as well, so there are some like kind of resurgence of fast characters. Eva and Ghost could be good against those teams, but where she's kind of fallen off is against alert teams, specifically Regina lead. She's going to be countered by Regina's anti-control and also attack damage reduction. So effectively Eva and Ghost could be doing 0 damage, not hitting the normalize, and also be normalized herself because of the fact that she is a control character. She would either be normalized or her teammates would be. So Generally, I would avoid going up against Regina or in general alert characters. Another counter to her is the new Shiva and Zeke, because they put up Guardian Shields and it's just extra things that she has to get through, reduces the amount of attack she can actually do. So with that in mind, I'm going to get her more towards teams like Telltale teams and stuff like this, and I have to keep that in mind when it comes to how I'm going to actually do the attack versus. But the top left hand corner is pretty simple. She is a multi-hit character, and we are going to go with attack on crit set. This is going to give her a 27% attack boost, but also when we get a set bonus in, she's going to get a nice big boost in the amount of crit damage she's going to do. Her base weapon has a 100% crit chance. If you're going to utilize that, you might as well take full advantage and just get the damage scaling up as much as possible. Now, when it comes to the attack versus, like I said, if we're going to go up against Telltale teams, it is 100% attack versus tough. Telltale teams are majority of the time tough characters. I think there's like 4 of them that are tough. There are other characters and other traits, and you can obviously just get mix and match characters and teams in there. But generally speaking, if you're seeing Telltale teams, there will be a lot of tough characters on there for sure. Bottom right hand corner, this is the debatable one when it comes to the kind of resist you want to have. I do like Daze resist on Eva and Ghost. I did say that is the primary kind of damage output that she's going to have, is her signature move, so you want to protect it. However, there aren't too many characters that can actually daze Eva and Ghost. There's no specific characters that will daze control characters that you'd actually take Eva and Ghost in against. Like if you take her in against a Telltale team, you've got Clementine who does daze against damage roll characters, so it's not as bad. But there is RNG when it comes to some daze. For instance, if you took her in against an alpha lead, she could get dazed. Or if you took her in against Omid on a Telltale team, he does RNG daze. Like, it might occur and it's random and it can hit Eva and Ghost. So I would still protect her signature move. It is the most important part of her kit. Lone Wolf's team and Lone Wolf's characters, generally speaking, they're mainly a turn 1 team and then like a turn 3 team. Their turn 2 is not great, so you want to like actually make sure they can do their turn 1. Otherwise, they're not doing much for the first couple of turns of the fight. Their basic attacks are pretty basic, no pun intended. Now, when it comes to the bottom left-hand corner, we are going to go for the juicy extra critical multiplier, an extra 75%. Like I said, if we're going to have her with a 100% crit chance, we might as well take full advantage of the multipliers, try and get those crits up as high as possible. Very nice in terms of the damage output here. We'll hit those like tough characters and fast characters specifically very, very nicely indeed. So then we come to the wild card slot, and this is where you've got to decide, what do I want to do with Eva and Ghost? She is mainly a damage dealer, which is bizarre because she is a control role. I think she was one of the first control role characters that came out that was just major damage. And then we had a few afterwards. We had the likes of Danny. I think we had Mirabelle in a free-to-play event. Those are pretty decent damage dealers, and their control role too. When it comes to what I would do here, I would treat her like a damage dealer, like an actual damage roll. So I'm going to give her attack versus, and I think we'll go for attack versus strong. And this way we're kind of spreading it across the 3 traits that you're primarily going to be good with Eva and Ghost against, which would be tough, strong, and fast. Remember, alerts, not so much. A lot of the alert characters are behind Regina or in teams with Shiva and Ezekiel. You don't normally see too many alert characters on teams with Telltale characters, except maybe Krista. But then again, you could have someone try and sneak a Negan into that team, so on and so forth. So you would have to have other characters to deal with those characters. I would say a great team up, at least for me, has been Eva and Ghost in a team with Mighty Hunter Zachary. And that way Mighty Hunter Zachary can deal with that very annoying alert character, and Eva and Ghost can clean up on everyone else who's in the team. So these are the mods I'm going to go for, and as you can see, we are going to get that 70% extra crit damage. It's a 5-slot bonus down the bottom, but we'll also get the 75% for having a crit damage mod in the bottom left-hand corner on the auxiliary slot. All of it stacks together. Don't forget, we are going to be hitting crits quite a lot. Even if you didn't want to go for the 100% crit chance weapon and went for like 1535 or improved 1535, if you have enough of those around her, she's going to hit crits more often than not, and then you're going to be able to utilize the multipliers very, very nicely. Now when it comes to Eva and Ghost's base weapon, you can see this is what it starts out as. It's a 40% attack weapon, a huge bonus to AP when attacking. It has attack up versus debilitating. When attacking an enemy with a debilitating status effect, you gain 50% attack. And then the last slot improves critical expert, turns fighters' base crit chance to 100%, which means you're going to crit every single attack unless a character resists. But because she's a control character, she can't have tanks resist against this. So tanks cannot resist her 100% crit chance, which is nice. But this fighter also gets another 20 crit damage multiplier, and this also stacks with those other crit multipliers. They could even multiply with each other, so that would be 3 potential multipliers there. Although I don't think mods would actually multiply with this, they would still stack though. It would just be an extra 20% on top with this weapon, which is always just nice. But when it comes to the upgrades on this weapon, pretty simple. If I just hit the X in the top right hand corner, I can see what I've done on this weapon, and it's simple. I've upgraded it to 55%, as you can see. 3 5% upgrades, very basic to upgrade this weapon. I would always do this on Eva and Ghost base weapon. Even if you're not going to use it, this is the best upgrades you can do. Another sort of weapon you could go with for Eva and Ghost is a ransack weapon, so you could be stealing away buffs when you do her signature move, so she could be taking out enemies and stealing their buffs away. If you did rely on her in your team as a ransack character, it wouldn't be terrible by any stretch. She does a lot of hits off of turn 1, potentially, like I say, could take down a lot of characters, and if you are primarily going to use her against the Telltale teams, you know that they have quite a lot of Halo, so you'd want to steal that away. And as you can see, this is one of the weapons that we got given a long time ago, so this isn't like top tier. If you could build a better like weapon where the final outcome has a better attack percentage, would be obviously the improvement. But the third slot here is pretty much the same as her base third slot, whereas this doesn't require the enemy to have a debilitating status effect. They just require to have more than 50% of their max HP. And then when she obviously does those attacks, she's going to steal 2 positive effects from the enemy with each hit. And she hits for 4 times off of turn 1, potentially 2 times for a line of enemies each. Or if she one-shots them, it would just be 1 each. So she could potentially kill 4 characters and steal all of their halos. If they have more than 2 buffs, is RNG which ones they're going to steal. So generally, if you want to team her up with someone who has like crosshairs, those characters obviously would stay down when she takes them out, which is obviously an added bonus. Like I said, the 45% attack is a little bit low. You want to probably build yourself a little bit more of a powerful weapon if you have option to. Ransack is a decent option, no doubt, but personally I prefer to put Ransack on a different character. I have Eva and Ghost in a team with They Who Wander, and I have him with the Ransack weapon just because he hits multiple times on his signature move, a lot of times on his Adrenaline Rush. I prefer to use Eva and Ghost for pure damage, and that's why I use her base weapon fully maxed out, just with the 5% upgrades. Now the team I'm going to showcase Eva and Ghost in is going to be this attack team. You might have recognized this one. I used this one for a very, very long time. It still would be one of my go-to attack teams because it's still extremely potent, and I can take down the majority of teams very, very early on in the fight. The only time this team started to have troubles was with the Regina release, because a lot of these characters are multi-hit, and obviously Regina reduces the kind of attack-based damage reduction with her passive to all her teammates, plus it stacks, so you could be doing 0 hits with like 3 of these characters at the very least, and they're big damage dealers. They Who Wander, Eva and Ghost on Forsaken Michonne could be hitting for 0s, not what you want. But the team up in this team is very good. You can look at my war streams from like 6 months ago to see how powerful this team is. It pretty much blitzes through the majority of teams that were around back then. So still a lot of people use those teams right now. Okay, so here we are coming up against a Telltale lead team with Clementine. We also do have some non-Telltale characters in here. But we also have Omid, who does have that random daze. That's why we've got the daze resist. It is quite nice. I like to do the initial attack here with They Who Wander, and this is for 2 reasons. We put down more negative effects, so Eva and Ghost gets 10% per negative effect. So right now we've got at least 10 negative effects on the defense team with the crosshairs, the defense downs, the disarms, the dazes and stuff like that. And that means I should be getting close to 100% or more attack bonus. We also did proc the specialist skill of Joshua, so I will not have that proc when I do Eva and Ghost signature move. And as you can see, we're going to take out 3 characters. We can hit absolute defense still, but the second attack goes through absolute defense, as you saw, which is what makes that actually really nice. I'm going to attack this character down here, and hopefully we can take her out. And when it comes to just full team synergy, the first turn on a Lone Wolves defense team, Lone Wolves attack team is very nice. As you can see, after I do my first turn, no one's got anything. If I did the signature move of Zachary, instead of his Adrenaline Rush, if he didn't get taken out, no one's got anything to follow up. That's why turn 1 is very important, specifically on Eva and Ghost. She took out 3 of these characters, even if other characters are taken down by her teammates. Now, another team that I think that the kind of Eva and Ghost / Lone Wolves attack team is good against, I think, is Bite defense teams, which is mainly strong characters. This is why attack versus strong on her is quite nice. I like to have at least a couple of my characters with attack versus strong on this team, and I basically have to decide where I want to attack first. We can just go down the bottom. I can take out the person who could go into Outlast, because we have a character in Jesus that goes into Outlast. But if I normalize Jesus with Eva and Ghost, he should be like not going into Outlast, but also he's going to be decapped in this case because of the fact that he had got crosshairs. We can take out some other characters, ones that have crosshairs on them, just to keep them down. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the defend action. I might actually just remove bonus HP here just to do that. And we're just going to hit the defend action, because on the next turn I can normalize this character and also take her out, whereas I wouldn't necessarily be able to guarantee the takedown on turn 2. Like I said before, the Lone Wolves attack team is a little bit strange. Sometimes I do just do a basic attack or defend on my Michonne, so turn 2 I get to actually do her Adrenaline Rush. Now in this case I'm going to lose potentially Zachary, but it doesn't matter too much. In this case we actually get Zachary's Adrenaline Rush up, which is nice. We'll just do some extra damage. We're going to do 2 Adrenaline Rushes on Zachary. Very interesting indeed. Very interesting. There we go. But because we've got the counter damage reduction, we're fine. Now, a team I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of in the future is going to be Mackenzie lead defense teams. So I think that Eva and Ghost is pretty good against Mackenzie led defense teams. Unless they have the Shiva and Zeke on it, then it can be a little bit of a problem. But as you can see, we have got like double ups of things like Halo and Outlast and lots of revive loops. This is where Eva and Ghost kind of shines, where she can deal with these sort of characters quite nicely. You obviously have to take away certain buffs off these characters, as we will try and take away the Halo on the bottom line, and it looks like we managed to hit that. And now I can take out that bottom line knowing that Zachary will not come back, and we will decap Omid. So we'll just do the signature move. And this is where she shines really well. We have also got character in the top right hand corner who, if you have Forsaken Michonne, I don't think she's in the current world, but she may feature in a future world. She'll hit crosshairs when she hits it. Oh, she did actually get resisted, but we should be able to take this team down on turn 1. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. There we go. And that's because of Eva and Ghost taking out the Outlast characters at the beginning. So that's it for a little starter guide for Eva and Ghost. You have to be very careful which teams you take her in against. She's not a character that can take on every single team. There aren't too many attack characters that really can these days, just because of how diverse the defense team leaders are, how massively counter-based the defense teams are. But what I will say is she's going to be usable against quite a lot of the defense teams that are probably going to be popping up because of the defense leaders that are in that wheel. I think there's Bite and Mackenzie. She's good against those teams. If people already have Clementine from getting her from the Stellar Roadmap wheel, again, she's good against those teams as well. You've just got to be very careful because Eva and Ghost and Lone Wolves in general are very flimsy. They get taken out real quick. So teaming them up with Zachary is really good because he revives someone every turn. That is actually a really good team up. Now, if you haven't got Eva and Ghost yet and you do want to get her, do check the video that you can probably see overlaid on your screen right now. That is the end of this starter guide, guys. If you want to see any other starter guides of any other characters, let me know in the comments down below. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.